Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Mr. Chat. Welcome back for another read aloud. And with Christmas coming up so soon, I thought we would do a Christmas themed read aloud. So I have The Little Toy Shop. But before we get into our story, as usual, we have to do our learning objectives. So let's get right into that. As usual, we'll have our 3 vocabulary terms. Then we're going to read our story. Then we're going to answer some questions as we read. And then finally, at the end, we're going to have a few questions just to reflect upon our story. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our vocabulary. Our first term today is disappointed. This is spelled D-I-S-A-P-P-O-I-N-T-E-D. This is an adjective, and this is used to describe a person as being sad or displeased because someone or something has failed to fulfill one's hopes or expectations. Our next term is protest. This is spelled P-R-O-T-E-S-T, and this is a verb. And this is to object to something that someone has said or done. And finally, for our last term today, we have scurry. This is spelled S-C-U-R-R-Y, and this is a verb. And this is to move fast with short, quick steps. And with that, these are your terms as well as your definitions. Here's your last term with your definition. And with that being done, we can get into our story. A Little Toy Shop. Once when I was very young, I heard the story of a special little toy shop. It stood on a sunny street right across from the park, with whispering trees and babbling brook. The shop was owned by Mr. Kringle. His name was printed on the window in big gold letters. Mr. Kringle was a gentleman, with rosy red cheeks and hair as white as snow. He loved his little shop and all the toys in it. But what he loved most was helping each and every customer find just the right toy. One morning, a box was delivered to the shop. When Mr. Kringle looked inside, he found a small stuffed bunny, no more than 8 inches tall. Ho, 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 he chuckled. What a cute little bunny. Mr. Kringle put a price tag of $5 on the bunny's foot. I know just the spot for you, he said, placing him on the shelf next to a large teddy bear. There, Teddy, we'll look after you until I find just the right home for a cute little bunny like you. That evening, Mr. Kringle put on his hat and coat and left the shop. As the bunny sat quietly in the glow of the nightlight, he heard a voice. Welcome to the toy shop, little one. It came from the bear sitting beside him. Why, thank you, said the bunny. Teddy introduced the bunny to all the other toys. He explained that each and every one was waiting for Mr. Kringle to find just the right child to take them home. There's nothing sadder than a toy that never knows the love of a child, said Teddy. But as the days passed, Bunny and Teddy became the best of friends. Beyond their furry feet, they watched the world outside the shop change. Summer turned into autumn, and then came the cold, white days of winter. Soon it'll be Christmas, Teddy told Bunny. It's a magical time when many toys find loving homes. As Christmas drew closer, the two friends saw more and more of the other toys leave the shop. They began to think that Mr. Kringle would never find just the right child for them. One afternoon, a little girl appeared outside the shop. With cupped hands, she peered through the front window. Bunny was sure that she was looking right at him. His heart jumped with excitement. Maybe this is a child who will love me, he thought. The little girl stayed there for a long time. She smiled and waved at him, but eventually she went away. Bunny was so disappointed. To his surprise, she returned the next day and came into the shop. Would you like to hold him? Mr. Kringle asked. Yes, the little girl answered, beaming. He placed the bunny in her hands. As soon as she touched him, Bunny felt warm and tingling. And in that instant, he knew that this was the child who would love him forever. I have only $1 to spend, she said. Mr. Kringle could see that this was the right toy for her. Well, he said, as it happens, this bunny is on sale for $1. The little girl smiled. She told Mr. Kringle that she would come back the next day with the money. That evening, Bunny and Teddy said their goodbyes, for they knew that this would be the last time together in the toy shop. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to show you this. The next morning, as Bunny was waiting for the little girl to arrive, a tall man and his assistant entered the toy shop. The tall man said, "I want to buy lots of toys. It's my daughter's birthday." "How special to have a birthday so close to Christmas," Mr. Crinkle said. "Now, what kind of toys does your daughter like?" "I don't know," the man said, passing a wad of money to Mr. Crinkle. "I'm sure this will cover any cost." "But surely you want to get the right toy for her," Mr. Crinkle protested. As they spoke, the man's assistant scurried about the shop, stuffing toys of every description into a large brown sack. It wasn't until they had left that Mr. Crinkle noticed that the bunny was gone. So what do you think that Mr. Crinkle could have done to keep Bunny safe from being taken from the tall man's assistant? He might have been able to put it in the back or hide it away somewhere. Let's find out and see what happens, though. That afternoon, the little girl came to take Bunny home. Mr. Kringle explained that what had happened and told her that her bunny was gone. "I'm so very sorry," he said. The little girl didn't say a thing. Tears pooled in her eyes. A great big one rolled down her cheek and fell to the floor with a plop. The sound of it nearly broke Mr. Kringle's heart. Never before had a child shed a tear in his shop. He felt so badly he offered her any toy in the shop for free. What toy do you think she chose out of all the toys that were there? I mean, there had to have been hundreds of toys. Let's keep reading and find out. Oh, my mistake. Meanwhile, the next thing Bunny knew, he was being stuffed into a box. Everything went black. Soon the box began to shake. He heard paper ripping, and suddenly the top was pulled off. Looking up, he saw the birthday girl. She reached into the box and picked him up by the ear. He didn't feel all warm and tingly this time, though. Instead, he felt frightened. As Bunny dangled in the air, the girl announced, "What a punny bunny. I don't want this silly thing." She tossed him into a pile of torn boxes and crumpled paper. Then, without a thought, she moved on to the next package. Poor Bunny. His day had started out with such promise. Now he found himself among the trash. The ungrateful birthday girl had broken many of the toys she had been given. "At least I still have my arms and legs," he thought. Something that he couldn't say many of the other toys had. As he lay there in the cold, a big dog came by. He sniffed at the bunny and then picked him up and trotted off, with Bunny dangling from his mouth. After a while, the dog stopped to lay down. He placed the bunny between his paws to lick him. Then he started to chew. In no time flat, he had plucked one of the bunny's eyes right off his face. The dog soon got up and trotted off again. This time, he dropped Bunny to the edge of a brook and began to drink. As he did, the babbling brook carried Bunny away. He floated along gently at first, but as the current grew stronger, he tumbled and tossed in the dark ribbon of water. Suddenly, his foot snagged on an overhanging branch. Bunny was stuck. Mr. Kringle had closed his shop early. On his way home, he didn't enjoy the crunch of the snow under his feet or notice the snowflakes dancing in the night sky. For the first time ever, he felt tired and a little old. As Mr. Kringle crossed the bridge that went over the babbling brook, something caught his eye. He stopped and peered over the railing. Much to his surprise, there was a glow in the street lamp. It was a little bunny. Mr. Kringle ran across the bridge. He slid down the snowy embankment to the water's edge. Careful not to fall in, he plucked the bunny from the icy brook. Bunny felt warm hands squeezing the water from his fur. A familiar voice said, My, little one, how did you ever end up like this?" As soon as Bunny heard the voice, he knew it was Mr. Kringle, and a flicker of hope welled up inside him. Mr. Kringle tucked the bunny inside his coat pocket, and with a new spring in his step, he hurried home. Mr. Kringle washed Bunny in a basin of warm, subsea water and dried him in a fluffy pink towel. Now, he said, let's see what we can do about your eyes here. He took a needle and thread and he sewed on a button where the bunny's eye used to be. There, now you're almost as good as new. The next day it was Christmas Eve. Mr. Kringle took Bunny back to the toy shop. Bunny was looking forward to seeing his old friend Teddy again. But when he looked at their place on the shelf, Teddy was gone. Where do you think Teddy's gone? Maybe someone picked him up already. As a Christmas gift this year. Let's keep reading to find out. To Bunny's great surprise, Mr. Kringle appeared wearing a beautiful red velvet suit trimmed with white fur. He was carrying a large sack filled with packages wrapped in brightly colored paper. Placing Bunny in a box, he said, I know someone who will be very happy to see you. After a while, Bunny began to hear noises, jingling bells, swishing sounds, and then a great thump. The last thing he heard was Mr. Kringle as he whispered, Merry Christmas, little one. For a long time, everything was quiet. Then Bunny heard a strange voice. Open this one. It's from Santa. When the lid was lifted off the box, Bunny could barely believe his eyes. There was the smiling face of the little girl from the toy shop. His heart jumped for joy. It's my Bunny, she shouted. Reaching into the box and picking him up, I never thought I'd see you again. She gave the bunny a big hug, and he felt all warm and tingly. Bunny was so happy. The little girl didn't seem to care that his eye was missing or that his fur wasn't quite as fluffy as it used to be. She loved him anyway, just the way he was. That night, when the little girl went off to bed, Bunny got another big surprise. There lying on her bed was his old friend. Bunny and Teddy had been the greatest gifts of all. A little girl with a heart big enough to hold them both. On a sunny street, right across from a park with whispering trees and babbling brook, there was magic to be found in a little toy shop where you will always just find the right toy. And that's the end of our story. So before we go, I was just gonna ask a few questions. So what's your favorite toy, and why is it your favorite toy? What makes it so special to you, and why do you care about it so much? And who is Mr. Kringle really? Is he actually Santa Claus, or is he just a nice guy who's just bringing toys to young girls like that? Well, that's the end of our read aloud. Have a great night and have a Merry Christmas. I'll see you guys around.